Hello, everyone. You are listening to Weddings Done Right Radio, the how-to for the I do. This radio show was created because there's so much information out in the world about weddings and planning weddings, and not really too many alternatives to get good, solid advice from the experts in the industry. It's an insider's view of the business and reality of the wedding day. I am your host, Jody Harris, CEO of Fun at Sight and Sound Events, where I am broadcasting from the wedding capital of the world. You know it. That's right. It's Las Vegas, Nevada. And we are in Sight and Sound Events World Headquarters. I am Jody Harris, as I said. I own Sight and Sound Events with my husband, Pat. I have been in the wedding industry since the early 90s. Yes, I have. I am a wedding entertainment producer, director, coordinator, disc jockey, MC, podcaster, blogger. I do it all. I am a National NACE Professional Member of the Year Award winner. And I successfully produce many weddings in Las Vegas. And guess what? We got people from Ireland that listen to the show that actually come to Vegas and book the CEO of Fun. So when I joke and I say I'm big in Ireland, it's because in 1 week I had 2 brides call me up and actually book my services. Isn't that crazy? And they live in Ireland and they're big fans of the show. So shout out to Ireland. We have produced a variety of shows on wedding related topics, like attending a bridal show and catering and venues and event design and floral. And they're all available for download on iTunes and YouTube. They're totally free. And boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, the way you can support this radio show, I'm not looking for money. I'm not looking for anything. All I'm looking for is a rating. That's it. Go on iTunes and rate the show. Subscribe to our show on iTunes. And also tell your friends via word of mouth. That's it. Word of mouth. Take the internet. Word of mouth about that you're listening to these great shows on wedding planning, and mention it to fellow wedding professionals that you've heard a great show on whatever the topic is. And today's topic, guess what? It's a great one, because this is the basis for everything. It's all about this. So I am Jody Harris. Follow me on Twitter. We'll give you my Twitter is Jody Harris, at Jody Harris on Twitter. But like I said, we're going to dive right into the subject, because I have not one guest, but I have 2 guests in World Headquarters today, which is pretty exciting. So I mentioned that one of the first and most important elements of planning your wedding that needs to be taken care of is the ceremony. The wedding ceremony can be a difficult and stressful process. So my guests are here to assist you with some helpful advice, and they are industry experts. So first, let me introduce to you a man that I have known for 19 years. We started together in Las Vegas in the chapel, Victoria's wedding chapel, right over there on Sahara. He is an ordained minister. This is Reverend Phil York.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Phil York. I've been doing weddings here for a long, long time. Everybody says, how many weddings have you done? And I always say, I don't know. I lost count after 50,000. But I've done many, many ceremonies. I have fun with it. And most of all, it's an important part of your day.
Absolutely. So Phil is guest number 1, and sitting right across from Phil is a lady that I have met. I've known her for a number of years, but we originally met through our NACE, the National Association of Catering Executives. She is the manager of weddings at the Venetian and Palazzo Resort, one of the biggest resorts in Las Vegas, and she is here. It's Rebecca Stebbens, right? Stebbins?
Yes, Stebbins.
Stebbins, I got it right. Rebecca, tell everybody a little bit about your background.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca. I'm originally born and raised in Connecticut. I have over 20 years of experience, and I've worked with weddings in hotels and resorts back in Connecticut, and have been here at the Venetian since 2006.
Wow. So you see a lot of action over there at the Venetian, don't you? It's a huge.
We certainly do.
How big is your property?
We have now 3 towers, and we have over 7,000 suites.
Wow. So you do your share of a lot of weddings, I'm sure, especially being Las Vegas, wedding capital of the world.
We certainly do. We usually average over about 800 to 850 weddings a year.
Wow. Wow. So you are an industry expert. So thank you, Phil. Thank you, Rebecca, for being here. So I know our listeners want me to get to it. So we're gonna get right down to the business of the wedding ceremony. Very important. Like I said, this is it. This is the reason why you're getting married. This is the main event. If you were gonna have a main event, this is the main event. So let's talk about where is the best place to start. You get engaged. What do we do?
Your budget. You have to start with your budget. What works for you? In realistic. I mean, there's a lot of couples that look and see what's on reality TV. They want the champagne, but they have a Budweiser budget. So they really need to kind of look at your budget to see what works for them and how they can personalize it.
Where do they come up with these budgets, though? What do you recommend?
Well, if you talk about budgets, some people get married for $200 or $300, and some people get married, they'll spend $300,000 or $400,000 for a wedding. So somewhere in there, the average wedding is about $25,000, give or take. But on any given year, we're talking about $25,000. So your budget is the first place to start. Becky's right. Once you understand about what you can afford, you'll be surprised at some of the costs. But once you have the budget, it'll automatically include things and automatically exclude things.
Mm-hmm. And how early should brides think about their wedding date? How do they go about selecting a wedding date?
Usually as soon as they get engaged, they start looking, but at least 1 year to the date. That way they can look and see what type of venue they want, if it's available, time of year, give their guests, ample notice to save the date for their ceremony.
Typically, that's what, once she says I do, they look at each other and they go, okay, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is you start doing a little research, and you research locations, you research officiants, photographers, event planners. If you want to do it in a chapel or a church setting, then you need to contact them and find out what their services they have to offer and what your options are.
And the best way to go about researching, what do you recommend as the best way of researching?
Either picking up the phone and call if you're local, or if you're at a destination and you're trying to get some pricing. Word of mouth, feedback, of course, social media, the internet is always great to look at, because you can see what it looks like. Everyone loves that visual image. So they want to see, well, what does that look like? Can you show me? Can I see the photos? So looking at a visual perspective is great. And just looking to see, a lot of brides have planned their weddings from, when they were 6 years old. So they may already have an idea of where they want to look, whether it's in a historical location, if it's in the city, if it's here in Las Vegas, if it's, on a vineyard, what have you. There's so many different locations. They may have something already set, and now they're just going to kind of reduce, their search.
I've done weddings in everything from helicopters to on horseback up in the mountains to standing in a spa with some folks from Europe that were wanting to do something kind of unique and different, to the traditional weddings is in churches and chapels and various golf courses, country clubs where they have various event locations. So it basically comes down to, remember, it's your wedding. You can create it just about any way you want. We will try to help you.
Social media, you touched on it. I didn't get a chance to talk to you guys about this, but you mentioned social media. Are you finding that the brides out there are very social media savvy? Do they want to see YouTube videos? What are the Pinterest boards? Tell me a little bit about that.
A lot of the brides, I think, are really going back to social media in terms of, utilizing it, because that's what they have. That's what they're used to. So they like to look at Pinterest, Style Me Pretty, Wedding Wire, The Knot, mywedding.com. There's so many different variables out there for social media, and that's where the brides speak to each other. That's where a lot of the brides like to look and kind of see, oh, well, I see your reviews here, or I like that picture. So they kind of get an idea from looking at the social media to see what's out there, who's sticking with the current trends. What are they doing that maybe I want to incorporate?
And I will tell you, I was surprised. I'm kind of social media retarded, so I have to back off. But people have come up to me and said, Phil, we've seen you all over YouTube, and I'm just amazed at the people and the venues and things. And so, a great place to start.
That's awesome. That's really, really, that's great advice, because I think it's important that when you are looking for a minister, or if you are looking at your venue, that venue or that minister has current images, that there is a website for the minister. I was surprised just yesterday. I had heard of a vendor in Las Vegas that doesn't have a website. And when we asked this particular vendor why he doesn't have a website, he said he doesn't need one because he's got great reviews on the Wedding Wire. And yeah, you got great reviews, but also you need to have a little credibility to add a little credibility to your business.
Yeah. Couples like to look. They like to look at the website, and they like to read and do their own research on you before they would like to book with you.
I find that image is very important, whether you're talking about a chapel or you're talking about an officiant or something. You want somebody that you're comfortable with. You want a setting and an environment that you're comfortable with. We have such a variety here in Las Vegas. You can have everything from the ridiculous to the sublime, which always goes back to what is your budget?
And that is a good question. And when you determine the budget, I think the listeners of my radio show, they know that I'm big on connect with the people that you're interested in. Maybe use the internet and the social media as a way of eliminating vendors, but pick up the telephone, because this, especially your wedding ceremony, this is a huge part of, you can't have a wedding without a wedding ceremony. Honestly. So this is really big. Talk to the minister, talk to the wedding chapels, find out what makes them different. Just don't look at a price, because you don't know what you're getting. We had a conversation just prior in the lobby here, and we were talking a little bit about that. And you guys agree. It's so important to make a connection, especially with somebody like Phil, Reverend Phil.
Think about this, folks. It's your wedding license is the cheapest, easiest license that you will ever get. And it is the most painful, expensive license you'll ever get out of. So it is a serious event. And because I'm licensed to do weddings, these are legal documents. These are binding agreements. So you're entering into something that's important. So you want to make sure that you're comfortable with your minister or priest or whoever you're going to have do your ceremony. And you also want to be comfortable with the chapel manager, people that are going to basically be doing all of the ancillary stuff that makes this come off with a very special, meaningful moment.
Yeah, this is an important day of their lives. You want to make sure that when you go to a venue, no matter where it is in the world, who you're working with, your vendors, you have that personal touch, because these people are going to be working with you 1 year out, 6 months out, 3 months out, depending on when you're planning your wedding. So you really need that personal contact, and it's that touch, that personal testimony with these vendors and these partners, and the couple needs to really feel comfortable with working with them.
And I think two things. I always tell grooms, because guys are standing there, usually got their hands jammed in their pockets, and I go, okay, there's only 3 S's you need to remember. Show up, shut up, and smile.
Great advice.
And they always go, thank you. But for brides, I will tell you, it can be a very stressful time, because you're picking flowers and nail polish and colors and shoes and all kinds of things that us guys don't even think about. But the main thing is to remember, a wedding is a celebration. You want to have fun. You want to laugh. You want to enjoy the day. And as you do, your pictures will come out better. Your guests will have a better time. So you really want to laugh and enjoy it. Obviously, you've already made a commitment of your life to each other before you make this event. So you want to really enter into the joy of it and have people come. And remember, celebrations, nothing ever goes perfect. So
Ain't that the truth? So let's talk a little bit about the ceremony, because you guys know all about the ceremony. Tell me about the different types of ceremonies there are.
Well, you have the 3 different types. You have the Christian ceremony, religious ceremony, non-denominational, and civil ceremony.
What's a Christian ceremony?
Christian is more of a religious ceremony. So if there is a particular faith that the couple is, belongs to, such as Catholic or Jewish, that would be considered a religious ceremony.
to elaborate too, over the years I've done this, it can take on the scope of a lot of things. It can be a Muslim ceremony, it can be a Hindu ceremony, and I've participated in these. It can be a Persian ceremony. You can just go a lot of different directions. So a variety of religions and a variety of cultures enter into this. And so because it's your wedding and you're creating this special day, you can integrate a little or a lot of whatever it is you believe. If you come to a juncture where you come from 2 different backgrounds, the traditional one is more of a non-denominational ceremony, where there's mention of God, but there's no orientation to one particular group of believers versus another.
And the civil wedding, there's something called the civil wedding.
Yeah, no mention of God. Just basic.
Do you marry, take Bill? Do you, Bill, take Mary? I do. If you want to waste a little time, give her a kiss. We're ready to go.
Wow. So the civil ceremonies can take as little as 3 minutes. So are the civil ceremonies where the people usually dress up in costumes? Or is that what we usually see? A civil ceremony, or it could be
whatever they prefer.
It can be anything. It's an amazing thing. I had one couple show up. They both had plaid shorts on. She had a yellow tank top with a Tweety bird on it, and he had a red tank top with Sylvester the cat. I had another group show up. There was like 50 people there. They all had white T-shirts, and on the T-shirts they had father of the bride, friend of the groom, mother of the bride, everything you can imagine, but every one of them had a T-shirt. So you can be creative, and it can be fun, it can be formal, or it can be light and airy, so you can do anything.
Are there I would think with the Christian or the religious ceremony that they might drag out a little bit longer, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, drag out, but they're a little bit longer than a civil?
For example, if people come to me and they want to know about a Catholic ceremony. A Catholic ceremony is a sacrament, and the Catholic ceremony can't be performed anywhere but within the confines of a church. So you can't come to your favorite venue like Four Seasons or a golf course or something and say, we'd like a Catholic ceremony. You can do similar to, but you can't do that ceremony. So there are some subtleties that you really want to search. And my advice is this: if you really have a commitment to a belief system, why aren't you doing it in your church or synagogue or mosque or something? Because that's a part of your community and that's a part of your belief system. For those that want to live a little more on the wild side, we have all kinds of ceremonies, and it's a fun place to come. Places like Vegas, which is a destination for people from all over the world.
I agree. And same thing, Rebecca, would you agree with Phil on
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, do the Jewish community, I've witnessed a few Jewish ceremonies myself. That seems to be the one area, though, where a rabbi can actually come into a chapel or go to a bridge, stand on a bridge and marry a couple, right? Is it just different because it's a Jewish wedding and not Catholic?
I think it depends, how, traditional they're looking at.
The church tradition is the important thing. Some churches are real open and liberal, and some folks are really...
Here's a question for you. Maybe this is a good question for Rebecca. My Uncle Charlie is a minister and wants to marry me. Can that happen? I mean, tell me about, maybe there's a bride out there who has an Uncle Charlie.
If he's ordained, he certainly can, but as long as he applies for a temporary license. For example, here in the state of Nevada, you do need a temporary license to perform a ceremony, and it's just that one particular ceremony. So if your uncle is ordained and he's affiliated with an organization, a religious organization, then he would be able to apply to the Marriage License Bureau, fill out the application, and then they would give him a certificate for for that one-day performance. If he's not allowed to, then you definitely would need to have a celebrant perform the ceremony that's licensed in the state of Nevada. He can do a blessing, he can open up the ceremony for you, but he would not be able to legally marry you.
On that note, there's a couple of options people have. Sometimes they have Uncle George or Uncle Charlie or somebody come in, they want to do the ceremony, but they don't have the license or the credentials. And because these are legal binding contracts when you get married, you can have someone come in and do the legal part of the ceremony. It can be just sit down with the officiant or whoever is the legal person and just take care of the necessary things like I do, and do the legal part, and then have the other ceremony performed by somebody who may not have the license or credentials, but may be an integral part of this event for you.
Yeah, I'm seeing that a lot, especially with, playing music for a ceremony. I see that sometimes even the bride's father. I saw once time the bride's father was actually the minister. I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, wow, he gets to walk his daughter down the aisle and he runs behind the microphone.
That's a little over control for me. But
yeah, exactly. I'm like, wow. Are you guys seeing a lot of your clients personalizing their own vows or writing their own vows these days?
With our chapel weddings, they're no more than 15 minutes. So some couples do personalize, but by the time they get up there, they're so excited, they forget, or they just ask, can we just have the celebrant say the vows? Of course. But you do have some guys take out their iPad and they read their vows. And then you have the bride who already has memorized her vows. So
nice.
You do have that, but the majority of chapel weddings, particularly ours at the Venetian, is they just go and they just have to go and say I do.
Well, Becca, you make a good point. That question comes up so frequently for me, but the one thing I tell folks, if you're going to do your own vows, you want to limit it to about 3 or 4 sentences, and you want them written down, because with the excitement of the day and the excitement of the moment, I've actually had people lean over in the ceremony and say, I can't remember what I was going to say. We'll do your vows. The key thing is this. Somebody said, can I do my vows? And this one guy, I kid you not, folks, he pulled out 3 pages, single-typed, single-spaced, and read to the point where I was watching the folks that were watching this ceremony going, I know more about this guy than I ever wanted to know. So yes, keep it about 3 or 4 sentences. You can tell each other all those special, lovely, warming things when you're alone or at your reception. But yes.
And I want to add to that, because you do have some couples that they get so excited they want to say their vows, but then it gets to the point where it does get a little personal, and they want to do it somewhere else. Yeah. That's fine, because the ceremony is a little shorter here, but. Yeah.
If you want to say something like, I promise to love, honor, and cherish you and let you watch football on Sunday and Monday nights, something that's got a little humor in it, just flow it into a sentence or 2, but don't draw it out.
Yeah.
Are you guys seeing anything in the ceremony outside of the vows that we just talked about? Anything that couples are doing to make it a little bit more personal? Are they not exchanging rings? Or I remember we still do the sand ceremony. What are some of the other things that you both are seeing?
Well, you can still do definitely the sand ceremony. They'll have one of their friends maybe will sing a song during the ceremony, a reader. Those are the ones that we're doing as well. But the unity candle is always a big portion of the ceremony. I know a lot of couples like to do that.
I saw recently a wine bottle thing.
Yes, the wine bottle. I was just going to mention that. The wine bottle is basically, you have this box with a very special bottle of wine. And what each of you do is you write down in your own words, in your own way, how you met this person and how you fell in love. But you don't show it to the other person. And what you do is you put it in a sealed envelope with this bottle of wine. And it's designed to do one of two things. If during the first year you run into a crisis that really is kind of straining this relationship, now's the time to open that box, open the wine, sit down, have a glass of wine, and read your letters to each other. That should help to bring you back onto the focus. If, on the other hand, it's a great year and life is good, then on your anniversary, it can be your first anniversary or your silver anniversary 25 years later, you can open it and go back and then reread these things. They're very special, they're very unique, and probably one of the most clever things I've seen in a long time that really has something substantive that is very personal.
That is very cool. You know, when I was doing my research for you two for being my guests, I saw something that I thought was pretty cool. Replacing the flower girls with the grandmothers. Have you guys seen this yet?
Never heard of that.
Grandma flower girls. It was the coolest thing. If you follow me on Pinterest under wedding ideas, you got to see the photo of the two grandmothers. The bride's grandma and the groom's grandma were the flower girls.
I haven't seen it, but I like that.
Yeah,
I like that idea.
That's a great
It's a way to
takeaway.
incorporate your family.
One of the things that's so unique about having your own special ceremony is there are no boundaries. Something like that is so creative, and it's so touching because these women, when they first got married all these umpty-ump years ago, they never realized that, now we're into the third generation here. It's a special thing. That's a great idea.
That's a cool idea. So let me ask you, because you said no boundaries. Are there really no boundaries? I mean, maybe at a chapel you might have a few boundaries, but are there really? I mean,
Well, I would have to confess that I've had over the years some incredibly interesting proposals. People wanted to get married in their underwear. They wanted to get married standing in a spa. I think I mentioned that earlier. It's, again, sometimes and I've learned that you have to just look at weddings that are unique for the couple. Some couples, they like to laugh, they like to joke, they like to tease, and some folks, they cry through the whole thing. They're just so emotional about this. It's just overwhelming for them in terms of happiness and, this is finally coming to it. Some folks are very religious. They want things to be very solemn. In our business, we have to be sensitive to that. That's why it's always nice to meet with your chapel manager and your officiant, because then you can kind of get a flavor for what do you want. Humor is a very important thing, but at the same time, you still want to have it to be solemn and something that's not, I believe it's not long and drawn out, but something that's more quality rather than quantity, and you can kind of tweak that anywhere you want.
And serious. This is serious business. This isn't like, the Hangover movie. I mean, even though it's Las Vegas, but this is serious. I mean, no matter where you get married in Bangladesh, I mean, this is a serious occasion, and it's okay to get a little wild and flamboyant and crazy maybe with your reception, but when it comes down to actually tying the knot, I think there should be some element of taking this seriously.
And to be respectful of the location you're getting married.
Absolutely, absolutely. Particularly if you're in a church or a synagogue or a place of worship, to honor those traditions.
So talking about seriously, I'm going to get a little crazy with you. How often, do people still use the words honor and obey in ceremonies?
No.
I always tell folks, I said, because that is the most frequently asked question I've got. Do you have that obey clause in there? I said, no, but for $100 I could put it in.
Yeah, we get that a lot. I don't want our celebrant to say obey.
Yep.
No, they
That's exactly
never say
right.
that anymore.
Wow. And what about this one? Because this is my favorite one. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Not in this lifetime. We don't do that anymore. That's one of those other things from past bygone years that you'd never get a ceremony done in some of these events because people would be making cracks or...
Yes, we had a bride who was very concerned because she was afraid the mother-in-law was going to speak during the ceremony, so she just made sure that the celebrant was not going to say that. I'm like, don't worry,
That is
You're okay.
Wow, I guess it's right up there with the DJ. You're not going to do the chicken dance, are you? I'm like, no. Wow. Well, we see that in soap operas. See, that's why. If you watch, soap operas, they use it all the time in a soap opera. So
some churches still do it.
And churches still do it? Pat's saying some churches, because Pat shoots video.
They actually do. I had one couple request that I put in love, honor, and obey. And I asked the bride if she was okay with it, and she was. But as a general rule, because we've come to more of an equality between the sexes, that is not something that resonates with a lot of folks on either the male or the female. So it's important that you're clear about that.
If I ever hear it, when they say "speak now or forever hold your peace," that's usually when I do one of those big throat clearing moments. I'll be like, just clear and everybody turns around. I'm just clearing my throat. It's great. If you really want to have some fun. I think that's why they stopped doing it too. But I'm the CEO. I'm the CEO of fun. Come on,
right.
You got to have a little fun. That's why I don't go to wedding ceremonies. I'm like, no, I don't want to even hear that. I'm too tempted. Rebecca, let me ask you this, and then Phil, you can jump in. What's the difference between the wedding planners at the chapel versus hiring a wedding planner?
A wedding planner is definitely someone who wears a lot of hats, of course, working with you, whether it's a mentor, a friend, therapist, whatever. That wedding planner or the event planner helps you with all your aspects of the wedding, helping you with your budget, helping you with finding maybe a location that would best fit what you're looking for, helping you with the floral, the transportation, and everything else that goes with your wedding, even above and beyond a post-wedding celebration, whether it's a post-wedding brunch, a rehearsal dinner, where in the chapel, it's typically just the wedding ceremony, and then you work with other partners. In Venetian, what we do, we take it to the next level. So we have more of a one-stop shop approach where you work with us. Our planners will assist you with all of your ceremony details, but also your accommodations for your hotel. We will assist you with your transportation, restaurant or reception location, and because everything is at the hotel for you, so your guests don't have to go everywhere else, we'll be happy to work with you and working out your whole wedding day with an event planner, depending, no matter where you look. They help you with everything. And just to make it stress-free for you, because there is a lot of planning. And to enjoy the moment with that planner, because it's exciting.
And a lot of times your department will also work with a planner, because I know we've done many events together, and sometimes they'll bring in one of those independent planners, but so you can still do that.
Absolutely.
Yep. Especially like you said, the therapist aspect of it, and maybe leading into some of the next day. Sometimes people do after parties, even though your department can handle that. But
it's always nice to have that extra support, because they've been working with the couple more than we have, so they may know more what the couple's looking for, so they can really give that personal aspect and have that advantage. But we will have that advantage because we're familiar with the property. So we can assist them in that way as well.
And on that note, I would tell you something else. Whether you're talking about coordinators that are working in chapels in some of these venues or event planners, the important thing when you're dealing with these folks is they know the various people out there, whether they're DJs or whether they're photographers, and they know who's good and who has personality and someone that will really make it a special event. Versus, I got this guy for cheap, and he's really good, and you're going, if you're going to fudge anywhere, spend a little extra money on this or that. They'll advise you, because that's an important thing. This can be kind of an overwhelming thing when you're kind of thinking about it for the first time, but for those of us that have been in it a lot of years, we kind of know who to trust, and we can say, if you contact that person, they'll help you with the video, the photography, your music, your DJ, and they'll show you all of these things.
And I agree, because it's the personal relationships with your partners that you can go to, because those are your go-to people that you strongly recommend, because the last thing you want to do is recommend a vendor, a partner. I like to call them partners.
I do too. Thank you. Yes,
to
partners.
To our couples, and they have a bad experience because it's a reflection on you. And they'll also provide the feedback to everyone else. Oh, don't go with them because they just gave me a bad, recommendation. And it goes both ways.
I tend to agree. So I think that's like one of the benefits about getting married, quote, in a hotel chapel. But one of the things that you also have to be made aware of, and we talked about this a little bit, is the fact that you should know what's on the convention calendar. And maybe you can explain that a little bit to our audience.
And no matter where you're looking, here in Las Vegas, we do have a lot of conventions. So it is nice, especially if you're looking at your reception or even your ceremony date, the time of year. Is it a big convention season? Because you have to look at your rates for your accommodations. Is it going to be more expensive? The weather here as well. It tends, of course, right now it's very in the triple digits.
Yes, it is.
But no matter where you're looking, it is nice to know because that way you can see, are the same vendors going to be utilized and partners is that date and time going to be available? Is my wedding going to be affected with wedding crashers because there's another wedding happening across the ballroom? So it really varies, on being able to really research to say, okay, this is the time, what else is going on, just so I can alert my guests and just so I know, so I'm not impacted, by my ceremony or reception.
And see, go ahead, Phil.
I was going to say, along with that, when you think about it, particularly in Vegas, but all over, most people want to do their wedding ceremonies sometime on a Friday night or a Saturday night. And because that's the busiest time, all the resources are strained. Limos are limited. They're running on very tight schedules. Photographers are busy. They're going from one event to the other. If you can do a wedding during the weekday, that's a good time. If you can do it during the morning on Saturday or Sunday, even better, because as you get into the evening, the resources are really, really, and traffic, and I can go down through the list, breakdowns, it's just amazing over the years some of the things I've seen.
Oh, absolutely. And again, having your wedding reception or your wedding ceremony and reception at a hotel, you don't have to deal, because we talked about traffic. You don't have to deal. And that goes for any place. I mean, My sister was married in, one part of Jersey, and then we had to drive all the way to another part of New Jersey, and the ride was over 90 minutes. And people are looking for the bride and groom, and it's just...
Yeah, and it breaks up your time, too, with your planning your day. Because if your ceremony is only available at maybe at 2:30 p.m., and you really had your heart set on a reception, and it's due to the time, maybe your reception doesn't start till 6 o'clock. So what are your guests going to do in between?
Yeah.
Or you do have that long stretch of transportation getting to that one venue.
Yeah.
And you don't have time to enjoy yourself. You're taking photos, you're missing your cocktail hour.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of photos, one of the things that's kind of trendy today, brides and grooms, rather than not seeing the bride beforehand, are actually getting together with the bridal parties and doing all their wedding photos ahead of time. And the reason for that is about the time I say, "I now pronounce you husband and wife, you may kiss your bride," there's this deluge of family and friends that want to kiss you and hug you, and you get powder and makeup all over these dark suits, and you get lipstick all over everybody. And it's one of those things that you might consider doing your photographs together beforehand.
Yeah, the first look is always nice, and it is a more memorable moment, because sometimes it's typically either just the bridal party or sometimes it's just for the bride and groom, and that's where they really have the nice moment, that they can remember.
Absolutely. Before we close out the show, I always end with a takeaway. Or one good piece of advice. So Phil or Rebecca, who wants to go first? What one piece of advice would you give a listener right now?
No matter how you're starting, no matter what you're doing in terms of where you are in planning, just enjoy the moment. This is your time, this is your day, especially on the wedding day. It goes by so quickly, and sometimes it's a blur the next day. Just enjoy it. just enjoy everything no matter what happens. The bulk of it is you're getting married to your best friend.
And I would say two things. Number one, make a checklist of everybody, everything, and kind of go over that. And as you get closer, just run through that checklist so you're not leaving anything out. So as you hire people or get involved in different situations, make that checklist. The other thing I will leave you with is this. Believe it or not, weddings are easy. Marriages, on the other hand, take a little work. So enjoy yourself, have a lot of fun, and celebrate.
Great way to end the show, ladies and gentlemen. Phil, how do they get in touch with you? How does our audience get in touch with you?
You can get me on my website. It's philyorklvweddings.com. PHILYORK LVweddings.com.
And Rebecca, how do they get in touch with you?
Certainly can email me, Rebecca.Stebbins, S-T-E, two B's as in boy, I, N as in Nancy, S as in Sam, at Venetian.com.
Awesome. And of course, Venetian.com, the website.
Yes.
Very, very good. Do you guys do Twitter or anything like that? I know, Phil, you don't tweet. Do you tweet?
No, not yet.
Okay. All right. I think
Hopefully
Venetian,
we'll be a
but
tweeter
Venetian
soon.
does, because I do follow the Venetian
Yes.
on the Twitter. If you want to follow me, Jody Harris on Twitter, it is Jody Harris, JODIHARRIS. That's how I want you guys to follow me. Follow me on Twitter. And of course, my company is Sight and Sound Events. Again, huge thank you to my two guests today. Fabulous job. Boys and girls, I will see you next show. So I am Jody Harris, CEO of Fun, and I hope you are making it fun-tastic.